Hi friends! Welcome back to my channel. August is always such an exciting time in the planner world because we get to see all the new planner previews. For me, it's a mix of excitement and a little bit of anxiety as I start thinking about which planner to use for next year. In today's video, I'll discuss how I've been using the Jobs to be Done framework to help organize my thoughts, manage my planner purchase impulses, and narrow down my options as I work towards making a final purchase decision, one that is based on my core needs rather than whatever exciting feature is catching my eye and tempting me. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then I invite you to settle in with your journal or planner. If you want to do this exercise with me, grab yourself some sticky notes and a pen or something to write on, and grab a cozy beverage. So I've got a tea here because I think I'm going to be talking a lot and I'm going to need something to help me out. And join me while we hang out for this planning workshopping session together. Before we get into it, I wanted to go over a few updates. First of all, I just wanted to thank all of you for entering the giveaway that Leanne from Leanne Likes and I are hosting. So if you're curious about that, then there are more details in my previous video. Just a reminder that you will need to watch and comment on both of our videos and enter your information into the Google form that we provided in that video in order to officially enter the giveaway. And if you're new here, welcome. I've really enjoyed reading your comments and I'm going to do my best to answer all of your comments. So if you took the time to comment, thank you, and I will definitely be responding in the next few days or so. The second thing that I wanted to go over is this pen that Wendy Sue from Fountain Pen News very generously and kindly gifted me. She mentioned that this might be a really good pen to try for my meetings. Particularly, she said the way the cap closes on the pen is a very satisfying snap. So I'm not sure if you heard that, but it is indeed a very satisfying snap. She got me the fine nib in the brown color because she knows me so well, and just wanted to say thank you. What an amazing gift. And if you haven't already, please check out her channel because she shares a lot of tips and a lot of fountain pen news. As I talk about the Jobs to be Done framework and how I'm using it to help me decide what to use for my planning system next year, I do want to emphasize that this is an exercise that I'm doing to help me decide on a planner system that I want to use for my general work-life productivity planning. I do use a few different books for different purposes, so I am a compartmentalizer kind of person, and I don't want to give off the impression that I'm planning on getting like one planner system and that'll be the only book that I use throughout the year, because I'm not sharing the whole picture. So I do have, for example, a Hobonichi Weeks that I use as my meal planning book, and that is a separate book that I keep in my kitchen, and it is designated for that specific purpose, and that's something that I share with my partner. And I have a 5-year Hobonichi that I am currently using for memory keeping. But I'm not going to focus on those single subject books today. Today's focus is really going to be on my main planning system. And this year has been a bit of a year of transition. So I started out the year with my Hobonichi Cousin and my Traveler's Notebook. I was using a blank insert as my to-do list, and then I was using my Hobonichi Cousin for mainly the vertical weekly to keep track of my schedule, and then I was using the daily pages kind of like a notebook. And then about a month and a half, 2 months ago, I switched over to the A6 Hobonichi Original and the weekly supplement, and eliminated the Traveler's Notebook, and now I'm mainly using the Cousin as my notebook. I'm going to do a follow-up video possibly next week where I show you different ways that I have been experimenting with using those weekly pages. When it comes to productivity and getting things done, I really like to be in one main system, and I prefer that it is the main system that I use for the entire year. So I'm a big fan of full year books as opposed to 2 books for the year. And then when I start thinking about what my main system can be, it can get really overwhelming because there are honestly so many amazing options out there. And the thing is, they're all really good options. It would be so much easier if I could look at them and say, oh, that's a bad option or that's not good. But you can look at any of the options right now on the market, and I'm sure I'm not even going to encompass all of them because there truly are like just so many out there right now that I'm pretty sure that I could make all of them work for me. And that's what makes it hard to narrow down and choose what to go with, because they all have different features, but they all serve the same purpose and are very workable. So unless I want to end up with one of each of these planners, and with my personality and my impulsive purchasing behavior, I definitely could. I have to take a more critical look to help narrow down my options for next year. So that is where I have been borrowing inspiration from the Jobs to Be Done framework. And the reason why that was top of mind is because it's something that I used to reference a lot with the product teams that I worked with in my previous roles. I like this framework because it reminds me to focus on specific outcomes that I need from my planning system so that I can choose one that adequately addresses my core needs or those outcomes that I'm looking for. The Jobs to Be Done framework explains that people tend to hire products or services to fulfill a social, functional, or emotional need. So if we're talking about like a business perspective, that means designing a product that fulfills all those needs. And if you're able to achieve that, then that sets you up for a better chance of people hiring your product for their needs. So it involves a really deep understanding of what those needs are. But if you are able to understand those needs, then designing for those needs can make your product more successful than just creating new features and hoping that those new features will catch the attention of your customers. So I think the whole idea of paying attention to your needs and then trying to choose a product that meets those needs is a really interesting way of helping you with your decision-making process. At least it has been for me. So whether I want to be thinking about work or not when I'm at home, I've caught myself a few times actually thinking about products in this way. I think it makes a lot of sense that when I'm making a purchase decision, I am going to be thinking about whether it meets my needs. Whether that's conscious or not is a different story, but it makes a lot of sense to me anyway that that's the way that I would make a decision. So for the purpose of this video, I'm gonna try to take that framework and apply it to how I'm thinking about making my planner system purchase for next year. So what I'm gonna do now, after all that talking, is I'm gonna show you how I would use this Jobs to Be Done framework to help me make my purchase decision. So I'm just gonna move some of these things out of the way. Getting to this stage requires you to be pretty aware of your needs. I mean, if you aren't sure of like absolutely every need, you know, you're human, I'm human. I'm not gonna know all the answers, but at this point, I have done a lot of experimentation and I've tried a few different systems and I have a little more insight into what I know I need for now. So if you don't feel like you have really solid understanding of what your needs are, that just could be a sign that maybe you want to do a little more experimentation. So I've seen some people try different layouts on paper. So if you're curious about the A5 size and maybe you're curious about the Hobonichi Cousin, I've seen some people recommend taking a piece of paper and drawing out what the page size would be and maybe trying to copy the layout and see if that feels like it could work for you. I also think Yoseka Stationery has a planner sample book that allows you to try different layouts before you can commit to them. And if I can find that, if it still exists, I will link it in my description. So first I'm going to start by just writing out all the needs that come to mind. And I'm going to try to keep it to one need per sticky note. And I'm not going to worry again about whether they're critical needs or just nice to haves. The question that I've got in my mind is, what are my needs for my planning system for 2025? So if you're doing this activity with me, grab some sticky notes and let's spend 5 minutes or so writing down our needs. And if you're feeling like maybe you need a few more prompts, some questions that you could ask yourself are, what are some of the things that I need to be able to do with my planner system? Or how do I want to feel when I'm using my planner system? Or what does my planner system say about me? Okay, so I've got a bunch of my sticky notes written down now. And next, I'm going to start categorizing these into social, functional, and emotional. Okay, so then I'm going to start categorizing these. I'm going to categorize them by the different types of needs, so social, functional, emotional. And then I'm also at the same time going to start thinking about prioritizing them so that I'm considering whether they're must-haves or nice-to-haves. So over here I have professional appearance. Stay organized, I would say, is like a functional need. Just gonna move these out of the way. Fun, I'm gonna put that as an emotional, like I want to feel like it's fun. More focused, so I think more like a feeling, like I want to be able to feel really focused. Personal value alignment, so I didn't really know how to word this, but I want to feel some kind of personal connection to the brand that I'm buying the planner from, or the company. Brainstorming, this is a functional need. I'm going to put it down here because I do like doing brainstorming, especially my Hobonichi Cousin, but I have a feeling that's going to be considered more of a nice to have. Easy to carry or portability has really become one of my must-haves as my functional need. That's something that I discovered this year, and I know that things like brainstorming and long form note-taking are probably going to be at odds with that. So maybe that's not going to happen in my everyday carry or my planning system, simply because if it's so small, I just might not be able to do this kind of work. Meal planning is something else that I think would be the functional need, but whether it's a need for my everyday carry, I'm not so sure, so I'm going to put it down here as well. Enjoy using, it's more of a feeling, so do I really enjoy using it? Tracking habits, I think that's also something that would be really great to have, but I do also enjoy having my health and wellness tracker as a separate book, so there is a chance that I might separate that out for next year as well. Enjoyable design, emotional needs. So I don't need to have an enjoyable design, but if it's, like a really cute design like this Love It Panda, then it's gonna make me more happy to see that every day. Manage my time. This is an absolute critical must have, so I need to have that scheduling capability. And for me, that means a vertical weekly. I know they're not for everyone, but for me, it is a crucial part of my planning system. I want to feel less stressed, So definitely, I would say that's important. Probably more important than the enjoyable design. Short form note taking, this is important as well. So I'm actually just going to start shifting these down so you can see there's kind of a line here. But short form note taking, what I'm referring to here is if I'm at a meeting, say I'm out at like a vet appointment or a doctor's appointment, then I need to have some space for note taking. So it's more like meeting notes, whereas long form note taking, I'm more so referring to personal study. If I'm reading something and I really want to take notes on that, that's what I mean by long form note taking. Supports healthy executive functioning. So I'm going to put that up here as functional needs. The whole reason why I go for an analog planning system is because I've just learned over the years that it works better for me when I'm planning with paper as opposed to like a digital method. Shared experience with others in the planner community. So I think this is kind of like a social need. I think it's really fun to be inspired and to have conversation with others in the planner community. That is one of the main reasons why I have a YouTube channel. So I would put that more as a social need, not a functional, because I can still do my planning without it, but it's definitely a lot more fun when I can be inspired by and I can learn from others who are also sharing their experiences with using their planners. And then minimal setup. What I mean by this is for me to use it, I don't have to do much. So that's why I'm going to be choosing a planner that has like pre-dated pages and has already a monthly calendar and a weekly layout already set up for me, because I'm at a stage in my life where I don't want to put too much effort into the actual setup of the planner. So I think we actually have a really nice idea of what my needs are for my planner for next year. These are things that I would consider more of like a nice to have. These are what I would really like to have. Once I've got this out, then I can start thinking about trying to pick what product or what planner I would want to hire for my needs. So by the end of today, I'm not necessarily going to have like a definitive solution of what I'm going to buy because there's still time. We're only mid-August. What I would like to have by the end of today is to have narrowed down all the options so I can minimize the amount of impulse purchases, because once I have this list, I can take whatever planner catches my eye and then I can start to take a critical look at their features and compare them to my needs, especially my must-haves. And if they don't meet all of my must-have needs, then I will eliminate it from my consideration set as a potential candidate for my everyday planner. So I'm going to write down all the planners that have been catching my eye and that I've been considering. So we've got the Hobonichi Cousin. Okay, so I've written out all the sizes that I've been eyeing and considering. Some of these were recommended by you in other videos, so thank you so much for your recommendations. It was really fun to look into all of these, and as I said before, these are all such great options, and I'm sure there are more that I haven't even included here that should be on this list. Looking at all the options is really overwhelming. And if I had a use for all of these and if I had the unlimited budget, I'm sure I would love to try all of these. But for me to minimize the amount of stress that I feel, I need to be in one system that I can really rely on to sort of be like my second brain and have all the information that I need to feel organized and therefore less stressed. So now that I have a list of all the options that I would consider, I'm just going to go and check if these fit all of the criteria. Anything that's going to remain in my consideration set, I'm going to leave on this side, and anything that I guess I'm going to rule out because it doesn't meet my needs, I'm going to put on this side. So I'm just going to gather these up and we will go one by one. Okay, so we'll start with the take a note. Love the size. I think it meets the portability aspect, but If I'm not mistaken, it's mainly a timeline. So there's that vertical timeline, which is great, but maybe not a lot of space for notes. So for that reason, because I'm not going to be able to take short form notes as easily, I'm just going to put that here. For the ring system, I know that this can be a lot of fun, and I know that because it's so customizable, you can easily change things up. It's very flexible, and I think, you can add sections for anything that you need, especially as your life changes. However, there's so much flexibility and possibility for customization that for me personally, that would stress me out. So I really prefer a bound book and having things set up for me already. That's just the stage of life that I'm in right now with planning. So this one's going to be out for me. Next up, we have the Hobonichi Weeks. Absolutely love how this is portable. Even if you got the Mega, you would have so many notes pages in the back. Honestly, I don't know why Hobonichi does this, but they always put the cutest covers on the Hobonichi Weeks, which always makes me want to purchase them. So an emotional need, Hobonichi Weeks probably tops every other notebook or planner out there just because they always have the most fun covers. So if I were to optimize for emotional needs, Hobonichi Weeks is definitely up there. But I made that mistake this year. I ended up buying 3 Hobonichi Weeks, and I tried to force a use for my home and garden one, and unfortunately it was a fail. So when it comes to my everyday planning system, it doesn't meet the scheduling aspect, where I've learned that a vertical schedule is what I need to stay organized. If it's not going to cover that, it's out. So I may still get a Hobonichi Weeks for my meal planning or maybe my health and wellness tracker, but for my everyday planner, it's out. Sterling ink is really interesting. I know right now Catherine's in the middle of sharing what her products will be for 2025. And I want to learn more about the daily planner, because if there's an A6 daily planner that has the vertical weekly and the dated daily pages, that's a serious contender for me, because the A6 size is portable and it would have all that room for short note taking, and it would also have that vertical already in the book. So that would eliminate me having to get like a weekly supplement if I were to go for the Hobonichi A6. So I think that's definitely a contender. Aura Estelle, beautiful, beautiful books, really interesting layouts, but from what I can tell, they do horizontal weeklies, which is not going to meet my scheduling vertical weekly need. Wonderland 222 as well. Really, really cute colors of their notebook covers. Planner covers, but they do a horizontal weekly as well, I believe. So that one's out. Papertess, they have an interesting traveler's notebook size, and I think it has a vertical weekly. So that's definitely intriguing, because I do love my traveler's notebook covers, and I do like the idea of maybe having a traveler's notebook that I can carry around with me. The only thing is I would really have to think about how it lays flat, because in general I find that the TN size doesn't always lay flat, and I'll get to this later with the traveler's notebook, but when I have too many inserts, I just find like writing on them isn't as pleasant as having a bound book. So definitely a contender, and I think it's one that I'm going to look into more and consider. Hobonichi Cousin, I really love this book. It technically does everything that I need. It allows for long form writing. It has that vertical weekly that helped me fall in love with that format in the first place. And it just has everything. But with it being an A5 size, I can't pop that into my purse and carry it around with me. And that is something that I do feel that I need, because if I'm going to like a vet appointment or a doctor's appointment or anything like that, I really want to have something with me. Not to say that I couldn't have like a notebook with me, but I think for next year, I just want to optimize for portability. So as my everyday planning system, Hobonichi Cousin is out. Traveler's Company, I don't really love having multiple inserts for my everyday. just because I would probably have to have a minimum of 3. It would be like a monthly insert, a weekly vertical insert, and then a blank notebook. And I find that when I have 3 notebooks, it can just occasionally just get a little bit annoying to write on them without taking the insert out. And also I always have to add the clips to keep it open. So I don't think it's going to work for me unless it's all in one bound book. And to my knowledge, I don't think Traveler's Company has a weekly vertical insert for the entire year. I don't really love having 2 books, so for that reason, that's out. And then finally, we have what I'm currently in now, which is my Hobonichi Original A6 and my weekly supplement. Although it is in 2 books, right now it is meeting a lot of my needs. So I do really like that the covers are really fun and you can switch them out. I've already been swapping between my panda cover and I can't remember what this is called, but I've been using this cover lately and I really like it. As a brand, I really love Hobonichi's quirkiness. I love that they add quotes that I personally really love reading. I love that they collaborate with different artists for their covers. And I do feel more focused when I'm using it, and it's easy to carry, it manages my time. It meets all of these functional needs. So it supports my healthy executive functioning because it allows me to have everything in one book. And everything is already set up for me, so I kind of feel like I'm taken care of. So this one is a very high contender for next year. So I hope you can see that with this exercise, I was able to be ruthless with prioritization and kind of minimize some of the options out here. And I'm now left with 3 options that technically 4 if you think about Sterling Inks A6 and Traveler's Notebook sizes that I will be seriously considering for next year. And I don't necessarily do this every year, but if I find that I have a lot of options and I'm really struggling to pick and I start to teeter towards just picking based on emotion, then I find doing something like this can really help ground me and remind me of what I actually need this for. Because again, all of these I'm sure I could make work. But the more I optimize for all of my needs, the more likely I'm going to stay in it for the entire year, unless something in my life changes. And then whatever your reasons are, or whatever your needs are, they are yours and they are valid. So if you have some emotional needs and that is more important than functional needs, then that's okay. Pick your planner that meets your emotional needs, even if maybe they're lacking in a few of the functional needs. Or if you have really high social needs, like you really like being part of a community, you like using a system that has a lot of other people using it, so you constantly have like an endless supply of inspiration to keep you engaged and kind of keep you in that system, there is nothing wrong with that. So all of your reasons, whatever they are valid. And then the other thing too is, for me personally, this is not trying to say this is for other people. For me, I don't necessarily optimize for trying to pick a planner that I think is going to make me happy every day. Because for me, it's not that I need a planner to make me happy every day, I just need it to work. So while I might be tempted to pick Hobonichi A6 because I think it's going to make me happy every day, the reality is, like, being happy every day is kind of an unrealistic expectation anyway for yourself. So what I really need to focus on is it gonna like work for me, whether I'm feeling happy or whether I'm feeling sad? And if the answer is yes, then I'm okay with that. So if I go for a planner that maybe has like less personality and is more minimal, but I know it's going to work for me, then that is more important for me because I value function over emotion or social needs. Then that's how I'm going to make my decision in the end. And I think as you're doing this exercise, if you do try it, try to think as well about whether there is some kind of prioritization for these different kinds of needs, assuming you feel that it's helpful to categorize them in this way. The last thing that I want to say is that I do make the decisions based on the information that I have in the moment and what my context is. So I know that things are always changing, and I try my best to plan for whatever scenario I'm aware of at the time. But I also know a year is a really long time and a lot can happen in a year. So my preference is I'll choose a system that I think can adapt as my situation changes, which is why I'm sort of focusing on these core needs, because the planner that I use could change over time, but my general needs should stay relatively stable. So I try my best to remain flexible. And if things change and my system no longer works for me, then I'm not going to beat myself up about it if I make the decision to switch to something else. The main thing that I want to prevent now is I don't want to buy too many options as a just in case, so that I start the year off with too many things, and instead start with something that I'm pretty sure is going to work, and then make a future purchase decision if and when I have to. And then consider the trade-offs. So like, I know that if I go for something portable, then I'm probably going to be letting go of being able to brainstorm or take long form notes in my planner. And that's okay, because it just means that I can supplement it with a blank notebook, and I get to have fun picking different notebooks throughout the year, which will satisfy a need that I have sometimes of having variety. All right, well, if you're still here, thank you so much for sticking around. I'd love to know if you tried this activity with me or if you're planning on trying it, and what you think about the jobs to be done framework. Is it something that you think would be helpful for you as you consider your 2025 planning system? Or is there something else in your life that you think this framework would be helpful for you? All right, well, I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye!